Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this crash course in data and AI strategy. So, my name is Linda Borelius, and I'm Senior Vice President for our business unit called Data here in Sweden. We're sending live from our Stockholm office, and we have a great turn up here in the office, so thank you for joining. And we have another about 1,000 people joining online, so thank you all for joining this crash course. And today we're thrilled to welcome you to this event where data for us is not only about numbers, but rather the pulse of innovation. So why are we here today? The topic for this event is data and AI strategy. And we know that a lot of you, many companies out there, have made huge investments in data, AI, and technology already. But we also know that it's rather difficult to get the value out of those investments. So we are here today to share our experiences and learnings and best practices about how to get that value out of those investments. And for those of you that don't know us, what we're all about is that we want to create value from data in a connected world. And since 1996, we've solved the most challenging and trickiest problems that customers and societies have. And we were founded in Finland, but today we're a powerhouse of we have businesses in 9 countries and over 25 cities. Our customers, these are only a few examples, but ranging from a lot of different industries and different sizes of companies. A lot of them have kind of their head offices in Nordic countries, but with global reach. So that was the super quick introduction to us. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues. And before doing that, just want to remind everyone that we will have a Q&A at the end. So please post your questions in the chat, and I will be back for the Q&A at the end. So handing over to my colleagues, Minna and Tero. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda. And first of all, it's super exciting to see this many people on site here, but also online. So this definitely is a topic that is timely for many organizations. My name is Minna Kärhä. I'm a business lead for our data-driven business unit in Finland. I have also a long background working with data and business, so I actually entered my career in the world where everybody was busy translating or transforming the date numbers from 2 to 4 digits years. So it was the millennium that I had the opportunity to enter the world of data, and since then I've been working with both leading in-house teams for data and analytics, and now also as a consultant. Together with me, I have Tero Kallioinen, who equally has a long history with data. He has been, for example, the analytics director for Necta in Finland. And whereas we as colleagues know also Tero as with the nickname Sauna Tero, because he enjoys sauna so much that he actually works from sauna when he works from home. So he likes the hot, and I, on the other hand, like the cold. So I like to go and dip in the icy water every now and then during winter. So that's maybe what differentiates us, and we have a bit of a different view to life from that perspective. But both of us have a very long experience on leading different data and analytics and AI initiatives in organizations. So what you will be hearing today, kind of setting the expectations high. So we will kind of shed the light and using our experience to explain why do you need data and AI strategy, and why is it important right now. I think the amount of participations already kind of tells that it's a timely topic, but why exactly is important. Then how can you create a good data and AI strategy, not just a strategy, but actually a good one that helps you to gain value, real value. What does it look like in practice? So not only theory, we also will share you practical examples that we have done with our clients. And then finally, where you should get started. So once you leave here today, what can you start doing immediately in your organization? So this is what you will be learning today. And now I hand over to Tero to go dive into the first topic.
Okay, thank you, Minna. Very warm welcome to everybody on my behalf as well. Great to see so many of you here in the same room. That's very energizing. I'm excited to be talking to you here today about these topics that are close to my heart and I've been working closely with during the past years. Personally, I've been leading, for instance, recently a data and AI strategy exercise for a Nordic leading telecommunications company and industrial equipment manufacturer and organization in the financial services industry. So quite different industries really, and I'm hoping to share some of our best practices and learnings from those cases with you today. But yeah, let's start with the basics. What is a data and AI strategy actually, and why do you need one in the first place? When we've been working with a lot of different organizations, we've noticed that they seem to be experiencing increasing pressure to create more value from data and AI. And we've identified 6 major factors on the background that are driving this. First of all, there's the internal pressure, which means that companies have invested a lot in technical data capabilities over the past decade or so. They've been building cloud services and data platforms and so on. And now the management hasn't really been seeing the kind of transformative business impact that they were expecting yet. And they are demanding to get some visible, measurable results and bigger impact before they're willing to pour even more money into the data and AI capabilities. So that's the internal pressure. Then the second one is the efficiency pressure. So competition from new global data and digital native companies, as well as the current economic climate, is challenging organizations to become even more efficient in their core business processes with the help of data and AI, for instance, using intelligent process automation. The third pressure is what we call the relevancy pressure. So again, the global data native companies are setting the bar ever higher about what it means to have a good data-driven customer experience. How do you deliver relevant content? How do you personalize your services with the help of data and AI? And the existing players need to stay abreast. They need to keep a pace if they want to remain competitive. The fourth pressure is what we call the agility pressure. So that means that organizations are having too slow time to value in their data and AI development using the kind of traditional, often centralized development models and also too bureaucratic budgeting processes and so on. So organizations need to become more iterative and more user-driven in the development of their data and AI solutions. Fifth, there's the sustainability pressure, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So that means that both the society and the customers are demanding organizations to become more transparent and more responsible in their value chains, and that sets new requirements for their data and AI capabilities as well. And finally, of course, there's the generative AI pressure. I'm sure you're all experienced the Gen AI hype, and there's the feeling that generative AI and industries, but nobody's really sure how that will happen yet, and nobody's really sure how to make it responsible and sustainable and trustworthy yet. Now, it would be really interesting to see whether you are experiencing the same pressures as well. So let's take a quick poll. So our online audience should now be seeing a survey which has these 6 pressures listed, and please click the ones that you are experiencing at the moment. So let's see the results, and they should be coming in live as we speak. We see the votes coming in there. So seems like, yes, this is relevant to you as well. And the most relevant one at the moment seems to be the efficiency pressure, if I'm reading the results right, closely followed by the generative AI pressure. Getting more and more votes. Said we have almost 1,000 people online, so we get pretty robust statistical data here. That's nice. We can post this later. But yeah, seems like the leading ones are the efficiency pressure and the generative AI pressure, followed then by the internal pressure. Well, it's good to know that we're also talking about something that's relevant to the audience. Okay, let's move forward. So, the companies that we're working with, some of which are listed here, are also feeling these pressures, as I said. And even many of the kind of large traditional industry leaders are starting to realign their operations and their businesses around data and AI to get more significant impact and more significant value for their business from data and AI. But they're not maybe making progress as quickly as they would like to, and they're not seeing the impact as fast as they would want to. And it seems that changing an existing large organization to realign themselves around data and AI is more complicated than building a new startup from the ground up to be data native and digital native. It is said that big ships turn slowly, and that applies to large organizations as well. So when we work with these companies on the grassroots level, here are some of the practical problems that we hear that are holding them back from creating more value. For instance, they are getting a lot more data development requests already than they can handle, but they haven't got a coherent or consistent and clear way of prioritizing those requests. So in the end, it ends up so that whoever shouts the loudest wins. And they have no way of kind of consistently prioritizing data development by the value that's created and by the strategic focus that they're trying to achieve. Secondly, the business people often feel that they're not getting solutions to their business problems and business needs quickly enough. And they might be frustrated, for instance, when it seems like even small changes to the existing reports take forever to implement. Thirdly, it may even feel like people are talking different languages about data and AI within the organization, particularly if they're coming from different parts of the organization. To some extent, that might be because they have different understanding of the basic concepts of data and AI. And to some extent, it might be also that there's a lack of shared business glossary. So, for instance, basic concepts like what is a customer to us might not be commonly defined. Moving on to the right-hand side, we often hear people complaining that data is split in silos. For instance, your customer data might be in your CRM, in your ERP, in your digital marketing solution, in your customer service app, and so on. And you're not able to combine it across these applications to drive a holistic, improved, data-driven customer experience. Or it might even be that the customer master data isn't in shape. So we've even heard of cases where one customer might show up dozens of times in different systems as different customers. And in reality, it's just one customer, but in practice, it shows up as a lot of different customers across a lot of different systems. And that could, for instance, lead into a situation where the customer who's really high priority and really important and valuable for one part of the business gets treated as a low priority customer by another part of the business. And finally, people are even sometimes frustrated by the feeling that they don't even know what data they have, where it comes from, or who knows about it, or who's responsible for it, or where it can be used, or whether it can be trusted. And for instance, this might be visible in practice so that people spend time arguing in meetings about different KPIs that are supposed to be measuring the same thing, but are giving completely different results, and nobody really understands why, because they can't see where the data is coming from. Does any of this sound familiar to you? I'm seeing some nods in the audience here. So again, it looks like we're talking about something that's relevant. Good, great to check that. So what can companies do to move more quickly to create value from data and AI? It seems like this is not a problem of lacking strategic intent on the level of the strategy. It seems like organizations are already realizing that this is important. And there are studies like the one by McKinsey that says that 60 to 70% of the work that we currently do could be automated over the next decades, even using the current generative AI and other technologies already. So companies are realizing that this is important. There's a lot of potential for value creation. Also, the leaders are hearing this, and 84% of companies already think that AI will have a significant impact on their business. And this is also visible in their investment plans. So a study by Goldman Sachs says that $200 billion will be invested annually on AI development across the world by 2025. But for some reason, this isn't translated into the practice yet. Only 24% of executives report that they have actually succeeded in creating a data-driven organization, and only 21% of executives report that they have been able to build a data-driven culture. And in another study, 31% of decision makers believe that their employees are excited about the opportunities of AI in the workplace. So the strategic intent is not translating into practice yet. And we believe that one of the key pieces missing here in the middle is a good data and AI strategy. So let's define that. For us, when we talk about the data and AI strategy, we mean a shared and actionable plan for creating value from data and AI. And let me unpack that just briefly for you. First of all, you need to cover both data and AI. It can't be just a data strategy because AI is such a big part of the value creation that if you just focus on data, then you're not focusing enough on creating value, and you'll just end up developing your data management capabilities and maturity for the sake of maturity and not for the sake of value creation. But just as well, your strategy cannot just be an AI strategy without data, because data is the foundation on top of which you build your AI solutions. So if you just consider AI, then you're kind of building unrealistic cloud castles that can be never implemented without the actual data capabilities underneath them. It also needs to be a shared plan. So that means that it needs to be communicated across the organization, and people need to understand what it means to them and how they can contribute to making the vision real. So it can't be just a management exercise. And it needs to be an actionable plan. So it can't be just kind of a high-level vision. It needs to be a concrete tool for people in the practice that they can use for making decisions. The data and AI strategy needs to help people decide in practice which opportunities should they invest in first, which capabilities should they build first. And it needs to be focused on creating value. So you can't just build capabilities for capabilities' sake. You need to always think about how you're creating value for the business and the customers. And some organizations are not comfortable calling it a data and AI strategy. They have reserved the word strategy to kind of corporate level, and that's fine. Choose whatever language works best for your organization. That isn't really important. I don't care, but the main point is that you need to have a shared actionable plan. Every organization needs that, and what you decide to call it is of secondary importance. So choose whatever terminology makes sense for your organization. Maybe it's just a vision and roadmap for creating value from data and AI. That's fine just as well. So now that we briefly covered what a data and AI strategy is and why do you need one, let's look at how you can create a good one. And here I'd like to share with you 6 characteristics of a good data and AI strategy that we have learned from practice from the organizations that we work with. These are the ones that seem to be the most important and also the most difficult ones for organizations. But if you get this right, you have a pretty good chance of succeeding. The first one is thinking holistically. Your data and AI strategy cannot just be about the data and technology. You need to be consistently thinking about the business impact, the business value on the left-hand side. And secondly, you need to be thinking about the human perspective. So you need to understand what is important for your employees, what is important for your customers, what creates value for them, and how are they feeling about the changes you're proposing, how can you support them in those changes. Thirdly, you need to consider the perspective of data and technology, of course, but there you need to think about what's fit for purpose. So not just running after the latest hype, but choosing the solutions that actually make sense for you. And finally, on the right-hand side, you need to also consider the perspective of society and regulations. So how can you make sure that you're compliant with the latest regulations and also you're in tune with the kind of social trends and attitudes about what is okay and what is not okay in terms of ethical and responsible use of data and AI. So that's the first characteristic, think holistically. The second one is connecting the development of your human and technological capabilities to your business objectives and value creation opportunities. I already spoke a bit about this, but it's so important that I want to reiterate it. So you can't just be developing capabilities for the sake of capabilities. A lot of organizations think a lot about maturity models and how do you increase your data and AI maturity, and that can be really useful. But you shouldn't do that without understanding what is the business impact and the business value you're trying to achieve, because the business impact should really decide which capabilities you need and where you need to increase your maturity. And this also means that you need to make data operational. So data can't just be a tool for management, for making better decisions. It needs to be integrated into the everyday lives of people, into the work and the tools and the processes that they do every day, so that they can make smarter decisions and they can behave in a more productive way in their daily lives. Furthermore, this is the only way to get business involvement in the execution of your data and AI strategy, and you really can't succeed without that. So it's impossible to fix things like data ownership and data quality, or for instance, the user-driven development of data and AI solutions if you haven't got the business commitment and business involvement. And the only way to get business committed to building your data capabilities is to show them how they will benefit from that, how those capabilities are connected to the value creation and the business objectives. The third key characteristic is focusing on increasing the value of your data assets. So assets is something that has the potential to create value for the organization and is used for that purpose. And this is about so much more than just data quality. So it begins with data quality. Can we trust the data that we're using? But also, even more importantly, can we even find the data that we have in the organization? Is it easy to discover what data we have available on a certain topic? Can we understand the data that we found? Is it easy to find the learnings that other people have obtained about this data, about how it should be used and what should I keep in mind when I'm using this data? Can we track the data, where it comes from and where is it being used, which business applications, which systems are using this data? Can we connect this data to other bits of data within our organization? Can we bring the customer data, for instance, from other systems and other parts of our organization together to form a holistic picture? Can we use the data? Is it easy to figure out what the guidelines and rules are about what is permitted and what is not permitted? Is it okay to share this data internally? Is it okay to use this data to do targeted marketing, for instance? Is it okay to share this data with external trusted partners? Are those rules clear? Is it easy to find out those rules about a certain piece of data that you have? Also, can we reuse the data? Are you building data assets that are applicable across a multitude of different use cases across your organization, or are you always building something new for every use case and always kind of doing ad hoc data development? And finally, are you matching your data supply with data demands, or are you actually building data assets that are consumed by data consumers within your organization and that match the business needs of those data consumers? And an approach that a lot of organizations that we've been working with are turning towards is data productization. So they're starting to think data as a product and defining the ownership for those products and understanding the customers or the consumers for those products, and then publishing these products in some kind of a data catalog and sharing them in some kind of an internal data marketplace. So that's an approach that seems to be gaining a lot of traction, and that companies are adopting to tackle these challenges. The fourth key pillar is aligning your data with your systems and your processes. Companies are already pretty familiar with working with processes and systems. And for instance, they have owners for different business processes, they have owners for the different IT systems. But data really adds a third completely new dimension here that doesn't automatically align with your processes and your systems. For instance, your customer data might be split across multiple processes. It could be used and updated in your sales process, in your marketing process, in your R&D process, in your customer service process, and so on. And it will also be split across many different systems. It can be found in your CRM, in your ERP, in your digital analytics solution, and so on. So you need to specifically think about how you align and organize data ownership and data governance so that it fits your processes and your systems. But that also needs to happen on a practical level. And one good way of doing that is so-called value stream mapping. So the example here that we have is from exercise that we did for Kela, so the Finnish Social Insurance and Pensions Agency, where we mapped some of their processes using co-design, and we tried to understand what are the different stages of the processes, and then what are the different value creation opportunities in each stage of the process. And once we understand that, we can identify the data that's needed and the systems where that data needs to be available. So figure out what data is needed in each step of the value stream, each step of the process to create more impact, to create more benefits for the organization and the end users. And then we can prioritize the opportunities that we need to focus on. So that seems to work really well in practice, and that's what we've been doing with a lot of different organizations, to kind of connect data and systems with the process and the value creation opportunities in the business process or the value stream. Okay, fifth, a good data and AI strategy should strive to bridge the chasm between business and IT, particularly in organizations that have some kind of a centralized analytics function under IT. We tend to see this kind of a chasm where the business people feel that the analytics experts should participate more in the day-to-day business so that they could understand it better and proactively propose solutions to business-critical problems. Whereas the analytics people feel that the business people should take more responsibility for data quality and data ownership, and that they should adopt into use the great AI solutions that the analytics people are building. And the way to close this gap is to get the business people see what the benefit is for them, what's in it for them, why does the better data management support their business objectives and create business value for them. These pictures, by the way, are from a data and AI strategy exercise that we did for a telecoms company recently, and we got permission to use them anonymously here. So the business people need to take more responsibility for the data ownership and the data quality, and they also need to become the product owners for the data and AI solutions that are developed within the organization. Whereas the analytics people need to kind of come outside of their centralized chamber and join the daily business processes and understand what it is that the business people need, what helps them in practice, how you can solve their needs in practice. And this means using more iterative collaboration models, using user-oriented design, using methods like co-design and design thinking to figure out what are the business problems that are actually worth solving and developing those solutions together with the business people. So a data and AI strategy also needs to suggest ways to improve the ways of working and not just the technology or data landscape. And finally, but maybe most importantly, you need to support the people in changing their behavior. It would be tempting to think that once you have completed your data and AI strategy, you just need to communicate it and people will start executing it. But if we stop to think, we all know that this isn't the case. It isn't so simple. Usually we are talking about pretty transformative changes to the way people work, and people are bound to have different feelings about these changes. Some of them will be excited about the new opportunities that AI offers to work smarter and automate some of the boring bits of their work so that they can focus on the more interesting stuff. But other people will be uncertain about what this means for them, and does everybody now need to become an analyst or a data scientist to stay employed? And some people will even be concerned about whether AI will come and take their jobs. So you really need to give people the space and opportunity to work out these feelings, and you need to support them in changing their daily work, their daily practices, If behavior doesn't change in practice, then no value is created. So you need to identify the people who will be most impacted by the changes that you're proposing. You need to understand the impact that you will have, or the changes will have on their work. And you need to devise a plan for supporting them. And there's loads of different methods that you can use to support the people. It's so much more than just communication. I won't go through the details here, but the key thing to remember is that the likelihood of your data and AI strategy succeeding is largely determined by the changes or the decisions that you make right at the start of the process about who to involve and when to involve. So how do you include a large part of the organization already right from the beginning of the process so that they can feel that their voices have been heard, they have contributed, that you're designing something that's creating value for them, and they are eager to take into practice. So those were the 6 characteristics. And finally, from my perspective, I'd like to share our recipe for putting all of these together. So this is the formula that we've used with many organizations now and seems to be working reasonably well. So the left-hand side is about kind of setting the scene or understanding the situation. You need to understand the market trends. So what's happening in the marketplace? What are the major economical, regulatory, technological, and social trends that are impacting data and AI value creation? Then you need to understand the strategic focus of your organization. So what are the identified biggest challenges that your organization needs to solve in the next years in order to stay competitive? And you need to understand the business ecosystem. So who are the key players in the ecosystem? What are the key data assets that they have? How is data moving in the ecosystem? Who is processing raw data and refining it into analytics products and offering them to other players in the ecosystem? And that gives you the basis to start formulating your value vision. So that should be a crystal clear, inspiring, ambitious story about how your organization intends to use data and AI to create value for the organization and its customers and other stakeholders in the future. And you need to make it more concrete as well by describing the value creation opportunities. So those are the kind of high-level use cases or solution areas that you need to build in the near future. And here you need to prioritize and assess them from multiple different perspectives, not just the technical perspective. Minna will talk a bit more about that in the next section. And the flip side of that coin is then the capabilities. So once you understand the vision and the value creation opportunities, you can see what are the capabilities that you need to have in order to build that. You need to understand your current state, your target state, and what are the biggest gaps or bottlenecks there, so that you can see where you need to focus your capability development efforts. And once you got the middle sections figured out, you can move to the right-hand side, where you set the objectives and metrics that you can use to steer your progress towards the vision and measure your progress, as well as the roadmap, which is then a phased plan of what are the first steps that you need to take to start moving towards the vision. And the roadmap needs to cover both sides of the equation. So it needs to cover both the value creation opportunities, but as well the capabilities, and show you how those are connected to each other as well. Now, I'm sure you've all heard so much theory that it would be nice to hear a bit of practice as well. So for that, I'll hand over to Minna. Go ahead.
Thank you. Right, so Tero gave you a complete and thorough explanation of why do you need a data strategy or data and AI strategy and what is it exactly. So I will now tie this into some practical examples, and I will share one example in more detail how we have been helping one client to go the journey and create the strategy. So you can just reflect these 6 pillars that Tero was explaining through this story. What did this look like in practice when we worked with our client? But maybe to start also that there is no one kind of a data and AI strategy that you can just pick and kind of embed into your organization. It always needs to grow and evolve from your business goals and business strategic objectives and ecosystem and overall the business environment that your company is in. So the starting point for data and AI strategy varies a lot. Here's few examples just to prove this. So first of all, we've been working with a consumer security service provider. And for them, the need for data and AI strategy kind of grew from this idea that they had been using their consumer customer data in their internal processes a lot, so customer service. And then they were thinking that is there something that we could utilize this data as a product also to build something new for our customers, some smart features for our online platform that customers are using, and that way creating new services or better services, even differentiate how we are doing the customer service online compared to competitors. So this was their starting point for data and AI strategy. How can we utilize the data that we already use internally to build something new, to get more value from that? The second example is a mid-sized city, and their starting point for data and AI strategy was that they also had an idea that there's a lot of data that we capture about infrastructure and citizens, services, and events, traffic data. So there's like a lot of different kinds of data, but we are not utilizing it probably to full potential or not that much anyway. So externally and internally not using it very much. And they had the idea that could we maybe create new revenue from this data and get some more like financing for the city. So a bit similar to the previous case, but still a different. So they really started more from really just that we have an idea that we have data, but we are not sure how if we could get revenue from that or not. And the third example is a public sector traffic management company, and for them it was more about helping their ecosystem to utilize data more. So they were aiming to streamline the logistics flow of where different kind of companies are together transferring goods from airlines to trucking companies to handlers, cargo handlers, and or rail operators. So kind of a lot of different organizations, and they were as a like a central entity thinking that can we help this ecosystem to use data and share data better and become like increase the efficiency of the logistics flow. So this involved not only their own organization and the data, how they use data, but also how to help others in the ecosystem to get more value and use the data. And then the fourth use case, which will I also go through in a bit more detail, is a product industry company. For them, the starting point for data and AI strategy was that they wanted to increase the profitability of their material supply with better situational awareness across their teams globally, and wanted to be able to forecast more, also to be like prepared and optimizing their supply and demand and supply chain. So this fourth one I will now dive together with you in a bit more. So like I said, this is a globally operating company, and they sell refined materials to B2B customers globally. And their challenge was, well, the very first starting point was actually that the business asked from IT that can you establish a platform that helps us to then start utilizing AI, because we want to improve the efficiency of our sales process. And IT, of course, with this brief was a bit like wondering, well, we don't know what to do because you want to use AI, but what do you mean? What do you want to do? And the business wasn't really able to explain it in a more detail. They were just thinking that, hey, there's an AI that helps you to predict and optimize, so there must be something that we can just start using. So then we came to help, and together with them we started to build this shared plan for business and IT to collaborate. And their brief from the business side then was that there is this lack of visibility to up-to-date inventory capacity. So they do this like pre-planning and pre-allocation of inventory that they have produced, the materials, and they basically split it per area, per country or per area, so that each sales team has their own sort of capacity from the inventory to sell. And this is based on basically the gut feeling of how should this be sold, like which markets buy which type of goods. But then the challenge is that obviously customers didn't always want to buy exactly the products that they had in that exact area's inventory. So then it was really difficult to find products that they didn't have in their specific inventory from other areas' inventory, other than if you knew who was working in that other sales team and called them and asked them, do you have this available? And maybe we can ship it from your inventory to the customer. And then they also didn't have visibility to what might be the logistics costs then if we start selling different type of products from different locations. So then what is the optimal kind of a price to sell it so that it's not going to be more costly to send it than what they get from selling it. So a lot of inefficiencies in sales. And this also concluded into some unsatisfied customers because, of course, if the customer doesn't get what they want to buy, they are not very satisfied, and eventually they might even find another company who can get that for them if that's possible. So, as said, business wanted to really get things smoother, increase the profitability, increase their capability to optimize and kind of overall efficiency of this process. So the first part of the journey that we did together with them was to focus on where should they actually invest. A lot of problems, but where is the best place to invest your efforts and money on. Starting from really understanding the pain points. This we did together with them so that we first interviewed, we had group interviews for teams where they were able to, or they shared like, what is my current problem? Like, what is challenging in my work now because I'm missing data or information about something? What does it look like and what is the impact? And of course, the understanding that we created from that was very important. But also having just the team together talking about their issue was also eye-opening to the team itself. So even just having these group interviews was already bringing them forward and kind of gaining more common understanding. Then we had really a lot of use cases or kind of pain points to be solved. So of course we couldn't take all of them. There were like over 50 pain points in general, so we couldn't like take all of them and start looking into solutions. So we needed to do some prioritization, and we did like quite let's say a high level first prioritization, just putting all of these pain points into the same matrix, thinking that what is the impact of solving this pain point to the customer and overall to the profitability, and then what is our current thinking? Is this easy to solve, or are there a lot of dependencies that we are not in control of that are needed to be solved before we can solve this issue? And then we basically selected the ones with the biggest impact and the ability to actually then feasibly somehow solve these issues. We did document all of them, so they also at the end got the whole backlog of pain points, and that's something that that I will come back in the roadmap later. But this is now we were then focusing on these high impact and high feasibility cases. And then we brought again all the business teams. So we had their sales support, sales team representatives, logistics, finance, and IT all involved. And we brought them together to a couple of workshops where they together started to ideate and kind of create solutions for these pain points. So what type of data do we have, and do we already use this data for something so that we know that the quality is feasible for this, or is this something that we know we have it in our ERP but we are not using it for anything else yet, so maybe we need to check the quality for this use case and so forth. So started to create solutions together, and again it was valuable to have documented these solutions, ideas that this is how we want to solve this, but also just having people together in the same room for half a day, couple of times, talking about the issues and talking about the possible solution opportunities was really valuable, and it was increasing the maturity and kind of building this common language. And one of the findings actually was also from those first workshops that we identified that there were some central terminology that they didn't have a shared definition of what does this mean. And they were first like half an hour talking about it, like everybody confident that I know what this is, but then we went a bit deeper, like let's define what this means just to be sure that everybody understands it in the same way, and then we figured out that it was not the same definition for everybody. So there's a lot of value in actually bringing people together and having the discussions and ideation. So then after this, we had the focus on where to invest first, where to start from, and what to start solving, and what can be the solutions for that. And then we went to this second half. So how do you proceed? Now we know what we want to do. We have a list of things, but how do we then actually take action on this? So then we of course need to define the vision state. What will this whole process or this business look like when we have solved these issues, when we are more profitable, optimized, have a forecasting or prediction capabilities? What will this business look like then? And then we draw the picture, like Tero was showing one example. So we always draw a picture of the vision, because picture is a very powerful communication as well. So of course you need to also have the written vision statement, but the picture is actually a very, very powerful communication tool. So we built the future state for them. The future state statement was that the profitable material supply with up-to-date situational awareness and forecasting for more accurate planning. And then these were all explained what does it mean in practice. So now we knew what is our common goal, the objective that everybody, the business and the IT, are together going towards. And then we used this data-driven business puzzle to identify the capabilities. Tero also mentioned that we need to start always from understanding that what do we currently have and what do we need in order to achieve the vision state, and then identify where there are gaps that we need to fill. So this is what we used. I will briefly go back to this in a bit more detail. What did we find out from there? But then we had, now we had the vision state. This is where we are going together, and everybody understands why do we want to go here. And then we had a list of capabilities that we need to develop. And then we also understood which capabilities are already there, so kind of which are we building on top of, not creating everything from scratch. And then we needed to put these into a roadmap so that we know where exactly do we start right now and what will happen gradually all the way to the vision. And then some metrics to kind of objectives and key results, and then some KPIs so that we also can follow throughout the process that are we moving to the right direction, what are we achieving, and maybe there's some blockers that are preventing us to do something, so the KPIs can also indicate that, hey, something needs to be done here. So in this particular case, the starting point was that they wanted to increase efficiency and profitability. So it was at the start a lot about this first bullet here on improving the efficiency of core business processes. That was maybe the thinking and the main idea in the beginning. But during the process, as we did a lot of ideation and brought bright minds together, they also came up with new ideas. So once we have this data, trustworthy data and up-to-date data available for the sales teams and for the logistics and kind of for the internal uses, maybe we can also utilize some of that data and create better self-service for our customers. They had this sort of a self-service platform that some of their customers were using, but they were thinking that when we have better data for our internal processes, maybe we can then utilize that also for the customers. So it goes to this second area of developing data-driven services and experiences, not stopping just there to make our own internal processes efficient, but also thinking how can we help the customer directly as well, maybe providing something valuable for them. And then another idea came from the logistics that hey, we have a lot of logistics partners, the trucking companies and others who are kind of transferring the goods. So maybe we can also in that ecosystem share this data and help them to do their work better and serve the customer better. And like I said, there's a lot of different lenses to use to prioritize the use cases. We needed in this case to do high level priorities in the beginning, just to make sure that we can move forward. So we used the feasibility and the viability, so kind of an impact to business lenses. But then when we had those a bit more detailed solution ideas, we then also took into account, for example, the desirability. So what do those internal users really want to get? Like, do they want to get just a report, or do they actually want to get something else that they can use the data and make more informed decisions? So there's multiple lenses that can be used, and sometimes it's relevant to use all of these. Sometimes it's good just to use a couple to get forward. And then the puzzle, so thinking holistically, what are the capabilities that you need to improve or develop? And in this particular case, it was quite self-evident that we need to do some data development. There were some dependencies on the ERP, global ERP renewal project that were also, or these use cases were also depending on that, so kind of connecting to that. But what was interesting was that there was actually a lot of cultural and leadership topics as well, as their custom was that the sales representatives didn't enter any data to their systems. They had a back office, so they sent just email to them telling that, hey, I have sold this, or I have promised customer that they will get this, and then the back office entered that data to the system, which meant that there is a latency. So if you really want to get up-to-date information that can I now promise customer this material, or has somebody already promised this same to some other customers, there was a latency in that. So we actually needed to start changing that how do we get that data automatically to the system without having this latency. So that's partly also a cultural thing. It's kind of a different roles have a different mandate of doing things. So that was an interesting thing. And another thing related to the leadership, that salespeople, sales representatives, like anywhere, have a bonus system, and that bonus system can kind of lead you to certain type of decisions. So if you now start cross-selling from different inventories, that bonus system also needs to adapt to that, so that you don't cannibalize that. In a way, it's a nice thought that you can sell from anywhere, but actually your bonus system is preventing you to do that, and maybe even creating unnecessary barriers internally. So a couple of examples how this puzzle helped us to really understand what are the capabilities that need to be developed in order to really get that value. And then when you have the vision, the objective, and you know that this is where we are going to go, and you likely also through this current state and target state and gap analysis understand what are the possible blockers or gaps that you need to make sure that you don't fall into. But then, as these are always longer term plans, like this case was a 4-year plan for them to get everything done. So things will change. There will be surprises from the business environment that you are not prepared, and that's why it's so important to have a clear view on that goal together, that this is what we are going to achieve, this is what is important for us. And when you come to these first blockers, you are kind of prepared already that, hey, for example, in this case, the first blocker there is that, hey, we actually need to start saving. So we are not going to put money on, or we need to cut costs on IT budget. But then when we have a clear objective with the business and the IT that we are actually doing this because we are initially going to be more profitable, so there's going to be more money with the investments. So then it kind of makes sense not to cut immediately from the investments that we are doing now, because we are aiming for profitability increase and efficiency. And another thing, there's the train, also very applicable for this case. So that's the ERP train that kind of it comes, and this is for many global organizations currently a very topical thing, that there is an ERP renewal ongoing. So it's kind of coming as a train. So try not to get hit by the train, but rather utilize that and kind of at least be in balance with that. So and a lot of other things, of course, might be something that we don't know. But as soon as we are really clear on what is the objective, and it's a shared objective, then we are good to move forward. So just to summarize, data and AI strategy is a shared, actionable plan for creating value. And Tero, where should everybody start?
Okay. So the final section before we move to the questions. You're probably not starting from an empty table. You probably have figured some of these things already. So the first thing you should do is to check what you already have in place in terms of the vision, the value creation opportunities, the current and target state capabilities, the objectives and the metrics, and the roadmap. And then you can identify the elements that still need more work, and then you need to get commitment from both the business and IT leaders. As I mentioned previously, this isn't an exercise that you can just conduct under the IT department. You need to get the business involved straight from the start. And I'd like to show you some of the best practice templates that we've developed for these 5 areas. I'm not saying that those those are the kind of perfect solutions that you should aim for, but those can help you to kind of sanity check. Have you answered the right questions to the right level of depth already, or do you need more work on that area? First of all, starting with the vision, Minna already mentioned that visualizations and pictures are really important because the vision is really about telling a story to your organization and to external stakeholders about how you will use data and AI to create more value in the future. This example here is from an exercise that we did a couple of years ago for a company called Amer Sports, which owned a lot of these sporting brands like Salomon and Atomic and Suunta and so on. And one of the pictures that worked really well for them was this one, where we explained that they wanted to bring together the customer data that they were collecting under all these different sporting brands into a holistic customer profile that they could then use to deliver timely, relevant messages to their end users at the right point, at the right time, with the right message, using next best offer, next best action recommendation engine. So just an example of how you can use pictures to help you to show a story. So ask yourself, have you got a clearly defined vision? Has it been communicated through the organization so that people understand it? Is it focused on creating value instead of just building capabilities? Next is the value creation opportunities. This is a template that we often use. This is populated with fictitious data based on real events. So the issues that you see here are things that we come up with a lot of different customers, but this isn't directly copied from any individual customer. So typically as the result of working with these opportunities, we condense the findings into this kind of one-pager, where you need to understand, first of all, what the opportunity is about, then what are the first experiments or pilots that you can implement and conduct to validate that this actually creates value, to prove that there is something in this opportunity worth pursuing. Do you understand what are the customer needs that you are responding to, and what is the business impact that this will create for your business? And do you have the metrics that you can use to actually track your progress, to make sure that the needle starts moving and you're actually creating the business impact that you were hoping to achieve? Then the strategic fit, is this aligned with your cooperation strategy? And the risks, what are the main risks involved in implementing this opportunity, both from the perspective of technology, but also from regulation and the human perspective and so on. And finally, what are the new main capabilities that you need to develop to implement this opportunity? So not just what you already have, but particularly what you're missing to build this. And then you need to assess the effort. Is this a big or a small piece of work? Is it of high uncertainty? Do you see that there may be a lot of things that you're missing? Or is it fairly straightforward to implement? And then the business impact relative to other opportunities, and perhaps most importantly, the owner, because that's the single one thing that you can make sure that you can use to make sure that things start moving forward is assigning responsibility, assigning ownership. So ask yourself, have you answered these kind of questions about your most important data opportunities? Have you identified those value creation opportunities? Have you answered these questions for those value creation opportunities? Have you prioritized them based on your answers here? Okay. Next one, get the capabilities. Minna already spoke about the data-driven business puzzle. That's a tool that we use a lot in these exercises. And one way we use it is this kind of a heat map of the current strengths and weaknesses of the organization. So we can conduct a survey within the organization first to get kind of the basic data, and then we can conduct group interviews to dive deeper into the topics and also involve a larger group of people in the exercise. And then we can highlight the main strengths, the pluses, and the main bottlenecks or weaknesses, the minuses of the organization currently in each area of the data-driven business puzzle. And then we work together with the organization to decide that what are the highest priorities based on the vision and the value creation opportunities. What are the things here that are holding them back? And then we can identify the gap between the current state and the target state and translate that into development actions then. Next, the objectives. ask yourself, have you defined clearly objectives that you want to achieve regarding data and AI in the future? And have you defined some kind of metrics or key results that you can use to measure your progress towards those objectives? We found that the objectives and key results OKR framework seems to work pretty well when you're developing something new or undergoing a transformation. If it's more just business as usual, then traditional KPIs work equally well. And finally, the roadmap. It's important to have an overview of the roadmap, and the roadmap needs to contain both the opportunities that you're going to build that actually create the value, and then the capabilities under the bonnet, so as to say, that you need in order to deliver those opportunities. And it all needs to be aligned and focused on the data vision, the value creation vision that you have defined in the first place. So that's just some inspiration for you to what kind of answers you should try to have in your organization, and then you can use that to kind of assess where you are at the moment and what are maybe the bits that need the most work next. So just to recap, these are the topics that we covered today. First of all, why do you need a data and AI strategy, and what is a data and AI strategy in the first place? Then how can you create a good data and AI strategy? What are the characteristics of a good data and AI strategy? Then some stories from the practice. How did this look with some of the organizations that we worked with? And finally, how to get started by assessing what you already have and identifying the areas that need more work. And I'd like to conclude with this statement that the key to a successful data and AI strategy is combining a shared vision with an actionable plan where everyone in your organization can find themselves contributing. So it's all really about getting the people involved and helping them see what their role is in making your vision a reality. That's all we had prepared for you today, and now it's time for some questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So we have quite many questions coming in. Let's start with this one. So in your experience, how quickly does business like to see results from such programs? In your roadmap, you had yearly milestones. Is that acceptable?
Do you want to take this or shall I?
I can take this. No, it's not acceptable if you can deliver any tangible result after a year. So you need to be able to deliver something fast. I think the key here is also that it's not the IT who is delivering and the business waiting for results, but it's a joint effort. So it's kind of together figuring it out. And it can be even those, Tero mentioned those like tests or kind of trying out something. Can we do something small just to increase the maybe visibility to certain data? It doesn't have to be state of the art like final solution. Maybe we can just create a report that can be shared, and that's kind of the first step. But the key is that it's a joint effort and kind of done together.
I fully agree, and just to continue on that and to maybe comment on those years on the roadmap, some organizations still want to do a yearly planning and budgeting cycle. More and more organizations are taking a slightly more agile approach where you then might have, for instance, a now, next, later speed in your roadmap. But it's also important for the kind of supporting the change on the people level that you create those success stories fast. So you really need to identify, as Minna said, opportunities that you can start proving quickly with different kind of experiments or pilots, even if the pilot is a simple report. But you need to identify where you can quickly demonstrate some value and some progress and create a success story from that and share that within the organization to build the excitement and build the momentum for the transformation. So definitely you can't wait a year until you get some impact.
And about taking initiative to such a program, does the need for a data and AI strategy usually come from the business or IT?
You can start this.
Well, I think most often, if I look back at the organizations that we work with, maybe the initiative comes more often from the side of IT than from the side of business. But usually right from the start, everybody acknowledges that this needs to be a joint effort and you need to get the business commitment and the business involvement as well. So even though the initiative might come from the IT side, it needs to be built as a joint exercise right from the start.
Yeah, my personal view to this, it seems that nowadays more and more business units are also thinking and taking the initiative on this. So I see that some sort of a growing phenomena from that perspective. Maybe the maybe the
could come
maturity,
from either side.
Yeah, maybe the maturity has been grown and the businesses are also thinking more about this topic.
Does the data and AI strategy look the same for different industries? Do you need a different formula for each industry?
There are some similarities in specific industries. For example, finance industry is very regulated, so the regulations are kind of a thing that applies to all organizations in that domain. Or it can be that there are some industries where there's really like 100 years old organizations that have like built the business models and everything is like deeply established, so it takes a bit more effort and time to kind of start changing that with data and AI. But at the same time, there is no template that you can just take and put on every organization in specific domains. So it always also depends on the organization itself.
Yeah, so the data and AI strategies will look a bit different from different industries and even for different organizations, of course. But the kind of best practices or the approach that or the templates that we provided here, those can be used as tools across industries, and we've used them in many industries and seen that they seem to work well. But just as Minna said, another example that, or just as Minna said, there are a lot of industry-specific kind of aspects and best practices and learnings that need to be taken into account. Minna mentioned the financial services is regulated, but we work a lot in healthcare, and that springs to mind as another example that's very regulated and where you need to have this kind of a layer of industry-specific domain understanding that you put on top of the more generic tools that you can apply across different industries.
Okay, so about jumping straight to the AI solution versus continuous improvements. So this question is, even if AI will eventually be the solution for a particular use case, it rarely should be the first solution. How are you communicating this to the business, and how easy, in your experience, is it to get the business to understand that the first solution might even be manual, that it's a continuous process to get to the AI state of the art?
Yeah, I can take that, and I can utilize even the example that I shared earlier. So we agree. It's not like you have an AI hammer and then you go for looking for nails that you can hammer that AI hammer with. So even though the question might be that how can we utilize AI, we kind of steer the focus in the very beginning just to understand that what are the business issues and business problems and challenges or business opportunities that you want to solve. And then we start thinking about these solutions, not from the point of view that how can AI solve this, but more like what through this whole business puzzle. So there's the data, there's the technology, there's the algorithms, which is kind of the AI part maybe, but then the skills and ways of working and all of that. So you really need to think holistically also the possible solutions, and in many cases it is exactly the first example is not going to be AI most likely. Like in this example, business wanted to have an AI to improve profitability and all that, but we actually find out that the first activities were more on just making the already existing data accessible for wider group of people. No AI involved. Very basic reporting. And then from there, at some point, at the very late or end part of the roadmap, there were some optimizing or building recommendation models for the salespeople, but it's definitely not the first to focus on.
Yeah, and then we have quite many questions regarding actual, maybe more technical questions and data strategies for data platforms. So how do you handle when data is scattered in multiple systems? What's the best strategy?
Well, if I start on that and you can comment, I'm kind of, based on my personal experience, I'm kind of seeing this movement between the two ends of the spectrum. So a long time ago, when businesses started working with data was usually split in silos. And then they started moving towards another end of the spectrum where you centralize all the data on one cloud data platform. So that's easy to access, easy to combine in one place. And now we're seeing some movement again towards the other end of the spectrum, again towards more distribution, but in a managed and governed manner. So more and more companies are trying out practices like data mesh, for instance, because the centralized data development has become a bottleneck. The centralized data team is too overwhelmed with all the requests coming from different parts of the business. When the maturity grows and the different parts of the business are aware of the opportunities and they demand more and more, they come up with more and more use cases, the centralized development team can't keep up and becomes a bottleneck. And the way to solve that is to then kind of distribute some of the data development and the data ownership back into the business functions where the data is created and data is used, and the role of the IT becomes more a platform provider and a governance provider. So the IT will still look after the architecture and the kind of technical architecture and the holistic data model and probably the master data solution and the data catalog solution and the cybersecurity policies and so on. But the actual development of building a data asset that can then be used in different use cases is again distributed into the business units and business functions and doesn't necessarily need to happen in the centralized IT team.
Good answer, and then I would bring it back to the purpose again, like it's not purposeful to move data anywhere or organize it anywhere if you don't first agree what do you want to do with the data. And again, understand that what are the different options for then achieving that. Is it possible to move more towards data products and kind of a distributed area where then you would need to kind of develop the skills of data product owners across the organization and then start generating these like an orchestration and ways to work with sharing your own data product with others internally and being responsible of that, then maybe that's one possible solution. Or then for your organization it just makes more sense to have this central like one source of truth for what you are aiming to do. If your focus is really on compliancy, for example, then it might make sense that it's centrally governed, because that way you can kind of ensure that you are compliant from perspective. But there's again, it's the main purpose is not to think whether it's centralized or distributed model. The main point is what do you want to do for your business with the data first.
So another question. So in my experience, implementing new data and AI solutions is usually a people problem. So should this be a management top decision where you force people to use such solutions? Or should you kind of make people come together and make the conclusion themselves that these new solutions are actually for a good purpose?
Yeah, it would be so easy if there were no people. I agree. We are the challenge. But I would say that to a certain extent you can, of course, force, in a sense, that there are certain things that you just need to do when you are working for the company, and it's not always like what I want to do, but some things just have to be done. But at the same time, we are always highlighting the user-centric approach. So don't make solutions that are difficult for people to use. If it takes more time for them to go to that report or solution or figure out how to access it, and it makes their work, because nobody's main work is to look at numbers or use data. There's something else you are trying to achieve. So how can you then, with the data and AI, help these people to do the main job in a more easier and nicer way, and they will use the data because it has a purpose and meaning, motivation for them.
Good answer. Yeah.
So, legal, are we ready for AI Act? EU AI Act, how is that going to impact these AI initiatives? What do we see going forward?
Well, I think the easy answer is nobody is fully certain yet, because it also depends a lot on how it's going to be interpreted in practice and so on. But companies should definitely already be getting ready for it. And the main things that you need to do already by now is making sure that you have some kind of process or model in place where you assess and document the AI solutions that you build, and you make sure that they are responsible and sustainable and ethical. So there's been a lot of talk about data governance over the years, and particularly after GDPR, and organizations are already getting some kind of a grasp of data governance, at least in theory. In practice, it seems to be a bit more difficult, but AI governance is something that organizations are often still missing. So set up some kind of a process or some kind of a work group or board or whatever that will review the AI solutions that you implement according to defined criteria to make sure that they are ethically responsible, and then manage the AI solutions over the whole life cycle. So even if something's okay now, it might not be okay after 5 years, and it might stay in production longer than you anticipated. So make sure you have some kind of life cycle management model also for the AI solutions that you build. Those are things that you should definitely start setting up already if you haven't got them, even though nobody is really sure how the EU AI Act will be implemented in practice.
Another one, a great question, but I think really difficult to answer, but I'm going to challenge you. So what implementation area of AI is so far giving highest return on investment? So example would be marketing contacting the right customer at the right time, or AI-generated customer service, or kind of use cases where we see quick return on investment.
I immediately think about an example from my past when I worked for an airline, for Finnair, and in an airline industry, there's the cost of fuel is actually a huge amount, euros, and just by being able to optimize that with a couple of percentage, it's a huge monetary saving. So that was one area where we worked on kind of with AI to kind of try to optimize the fuel consumption, because when you fill the tank full, you always also use fuel to carry that load that your fuel is providing. So kind of the optimization is very critical. So I think it depends on the business and where there are maybe the biggest costs. Just by optimizing something a little bit might result into huge cost savings.
Yeah, I think that's the only right answer, that every business needs to figure it out for themselves. And one good tool to do that is to map out the main value streams and identify the biggest opportunities that you have for creating value. Having said that, then marketing sales is definitely one area that's been kind of ahead of the curve for a long time already. Marketing as a function has been kind of very data-driven for a long time already. It's also important to keep in mind that when we talk about AI, we have the new fancy generative AI stuff, and then we have the more established but equally important kind of more traditional AI stuff. And oftentimes the biggest business impacts might actually be, at least in the short term, found in the more traditional AI side than in the generative AI side. If you look specifically generative AI, which is hot at the moment, then we're seeing really big use cases in a lot of different industries in the customer support area. So building generative AI-driven tools for the customer service representatives so that they can solve customer problems more effectively, giving them tools that they can use to kind of figure out what's been going on with this customer previously, and then finding answers for the company's vast knowledge base about how can I solve this problem that the customer is experiencing at the moment.
I think we're going to wrap up there. There were a lot of questions, but there will be opportunity to reach out later on. So I want to say thank you to everyone for joining today, and have a good day.
Thanks for coming. Great seeing you.